It's going to be a long off season because we're 1 week in, and get ready to talk Rutgers athletics. Yup. The reason I want to talk about Rutgers today is there was an article that came out recently by NewJersey.com detailing how truly awful Rutgers athletics' financial situation is. I mean, it's horrendously bad. They are in a $78 million deficit, which is different than debt, I learned. Who knew? So if you have a little bit of credit card debt, this video is going to make you feel a lot better because at least you're not Rutgers. I do recommend reading the article directly from NewJersey.com. They do a good job of really detailing sort of the financial math and numbers and things that I just not smart enough to figure out, don't really understand it. And they actually do a really good breakdown of where this money is going, where this money has come from, just sort of how Rutgers ended up in this situation. I'll say I got to go to a Rutgers game this season, and they were handing out free TVs at one point. I'm not joking. They also had a petting zoo. I know that the TV thing is from a sponsorship like deal or whatever, but I don't know. Maybe we ditch that and we just do a t-shirt toss, and perhaps we don't have the petting zoo. I don't know. Whatever. But let's talk about the actual absurdity of these numbers, how Rutgers ended up in this spot, and where Rutgers and the Big Ten go from here. Brief intermission. I'm Lucy. I make college football videos for funsies. If you like these videos, please subscribe. If you don't like them, please subscribe. Just subscribe, please. So Rutgers joined the Big Ten in the 2014-2015 academic year, and since then has amassed a $500 million deficit. $500 million in the hole since joining the Big Ten Conference. That, not great. Since that time, they've increased expenses by 175% and raised tuition and fees just for normal students by almost 25%. And so sort of the thesis of this article is a lot of, hey, here's what Rutgers has been doing with their money, and meet this new athletic director, Kelly Zinn, who has the most impossible job in the world of fixing this cluster. Excuse my language. I will say, she started this job in July and has not quit yet, so that's very impressive. But it cannot be overstated how much of a nightmare this situation is for Rutgers financially. And I know you're thinking, well, how did they get to this point where over the last 10 plus years they have spent $500 million more than they had? Well, there is an awesome article that came out in 2022 by NorthJersey.com, one of my other favorite New Jersey news sources, about what Rutgers was spending their money on, and it is awesome. Rutgers spent their money like the plot of a Disney Channel original movie where a kid just comes into $1 billion. They spent $30,000 plus on a beach party, $20,000 plus on one singular bowling trip, and they went bowling more than that once, so it was way more than $20,000. They had a huge budget for Girl Scout cookies and Kentucky Fried Chicken. And Rutgers, being close to New York, would take frequent trips to go to the Cake Boss's cake store. You know, the I'm the cake boss. Do you know who I am? When he got arrested for DUI? Awesome. There was one point where in one singular calendar year, just one calendar year, Rutgers spent $400,000 on DoorDash for their football team alone in just one calendar year. They must have DoorDashed at least 15 times. And the list, it does not stop. $30,000 on Lululemon purchases, $18,000 on helicopter rides, 36 pairs of Ugg slippers, $25,000 on LASIK. They even had to pay off a New Zealand debt collector. Yeah, they were making some pretty insane financial choices. Now, that was all from an article in 2022, so hopefully they have fixed some of their insane sort of spending methods, which they had no answers for, where they were like, oops, I don't know, we just did that. Sorry, everybody deserves a steak dinner at Rutgers. Sorry, you're not one of us. All of that crazy stuff they spent their money on does not include coaches' salaries, travel to games, food, well, outside of the Cake Boss and Kentucky Fried Chicken and Girl Scouts and stuff like that, and DoorDash. There's still so much meat left of the expenses they have to be a functioning athletic department. That's not their wild and crazy spending. So that's a small reason why Rutgers ended up with a $78 million deficit, and yet each year their operating cost is around $193 million to keep this athletics department functioning, and we're not even counting the Girl Scout cookies in that purchase. So you see how that's a problem. If you are $78 million in the hole, yet it costs you $193 million to operate, and that does not include the new $20.5 million NIL sort of budget that these schools get. So next year, it is looking like Rutgers will be operating at a $200 million operating cost. As I mentioned before, I went to a Rutgers game, the Iowa Rutgers game in the fall. I had front row seats, pretty good seats, like 5-yard line, $50. $50, 2 seats. Well, it was $100, but each seat was $50 for a front row seat to that game. And most of the row was empty. So I don't think they're making it back on ticket costs. And obviously, spending $193 million, which will now be over $200 million a year, doesn't seem like a smart investment. But it's hard with these numbers because I don't think any of us know off the top of our head what an athletic department, a D1, Power 4 athletic department should cost to run. They're spending more than Iowa, than Purdue, than Indiana. So clearly we've established Rutgers, bad with their money, not good. But how do you fix that? The new athletic director at Rutgers has said the biggest concern for her isn't even being in that pretty giant deficit. It's the fact that the revenue probably isn't where it should be, and that is a bigger concern going forward. Because Rutgers, compared to other Big Ten schools, makes pretty much nothing in the fundraising department. A Big Ten school averages around $39 million in fundraising. Rutgers is at $8 million. And I don't know if that average, it counts Rutgers in it, is probably a lot higher because they, the outlier. You know what? Maybe I'm better at math than I thought. And I saw a pretty good explanation on Reddit for why Rutgers isn't making money fundraising compared to other schools, because there's so many good schools in the Northeast, so many Ivies nearby. The people who have the most money are not going to Rutgers, and you see those donations going to probably the better academic schools. Not that I know if Rutgers is a good school or not. I assume maybe the situation from Jersey Shore was at the game I went to, so maybe not. I don't know. And being so close to, the biggest market in the country, a lot of people in the Northeast care more for professional sports, so it doesn't really seem like an investment to make into Rutgers when, it's not even your top interest. And I know you're thinking, well, Lucy, Rutgers is in the Big Ten. The Big Ten has become the most lucrative conference to be a part of. Hell yeah, we have. Rutgers, when joining the Big Ten, did not become a fully vested member of the conference for a long time. They won't even receive their full Big Ten TV revenue share up until next year, 2027. So they have not been making what Ohio State and Michigan and Purdue have been making from the rev share agreement. Obviously, that's going to change soon, next year, so they'll have more money to help with this deficit. But yeah, not a good spot to be in. And they've had to take loans out to be able to be a part of the Big Ten for the last 10 years. So, I don't even know how that works. I'm very confused by the whole thing. Rutgers, your decisions, I just don't get them. And so obviously we can look at all of this and see, wow, Rutgers cannot compete financially in the Big Ten, has not been able to compete financially in the Big Ten, and is in a really bad spot since joining this conference with $500 million down the drain. Well, they're not competing athletically either. As we, smart, educated football fans, because of course you have to be if you're watching my channel, know that the financial aspect and the athletics aspect, they go hand in hand. Look at this little demonstration for our visual learners. And if you're not able to compete financially, oh, buddy, you're not going to be able to compete athletically. And that has been the case. Since joining the Big Ten over 10 years ago, Rutgers only has 3 team titles in men's soccer, women's soccer, and field hockey. Their revenue sports have been abysmal at best. The highlight is having 2 NBA draft lottery picks and still managing to go under 500. Not only are they not good at sports, they're not profitable at sports. And this is crazy because they've been playing college football longer than the rest of us. They should have figured this out by now. To quote Carrie Bradshaw, most likely Rutgers football fan, I can't help but wonder, is Rutgers in the Big Ten really a good idea anymore? Yes, I promise that we will be the college football channel with the most Sex and the City references. Rutgers has had no significant impact in any revenue sports. They are not even having that big of an impact in non-revenue sports. They are drowning in debt, and it doesn't seem like the Big Ten is getting much out of this agreement other than having the New York TV market there, which is obviously big market. But when you look at what the Big Ten has become since adding Rutgers to the conference in 2014, it is the widest geographical span of any conference. You have the LA, Chicago, New York market, where it's all streaming based now, and things have changed so much that for me it's hard to understand if the value of the TV market is enough to keep Rutgers there, even though it's literally killing them. I honestly live in New York, and this feels way more like a Michigan town. I've met 0 Rutgers fans. Every time I walk outside, I see someone in a Michigan hat. every single time. Conference expanding obviously does help in the general sense of everyone's making more money now because you've added these teams that do bring a lot of value with the LA schools and Oregon and Washington, but that also adds to Rutgers' expenses because no one outside of those teams that have just been added had a more difficult travel schedule than Rutgers, where you were already flying to Nebraska and Iowa, which is a difficult trip, and now you're going from Rutgers to Eugene, Oregon, and Seattle and Los Angeles. That's expensive. And that's going to cut into their Cake Boss fund. It's clear to me that Rutgers needs the Big Ten to help dig themselves out of this insane financial hole. But also, it's clear that the Big Ten has put them in that hole at the same time. It's a very weird, like, chicken and the egg situation. They're not going to start getting donations soon. That's not going to change. They're pretty much relying on this TV fund money and hopefully that they can get more brands and sponsorships within this football program. So I can pretty much guarantee you when the NCAA allows sponsorship patches on jerseys next year, Rutgers they'll have one. They'll have one for sure. My thesis of this video isn't Rutgers should leave the Big Ten should ditch Rutgers, because I genuinely don't know the legal proceedings that would go on to have that happen. I know it's probably really difficult and probably really expensive and probably well beyond my comprehension. So I'm not like out here saying like, Big Ten, say goodbye to Rutgers. But I'm just saying keep it in mind, both of you guys. Rutgers will be able to compete at a smaller level. They won't be in this insane amount of debt. I mean, obviously you're not going to get that Big Ten revenue anymore, but you're not going to be spending to the extent you're doing now to be a part of the Big Ten. I don't think a change is going to happen because I think there's too much like legal proceedings that go on with it that your girl does not get. What I do think is very interesting is when the next sort of batch of conference realignment comes around, which will happen inevitably. I feel as if college football is heading in the direction of 2 super conferences, which is kind of already there, but I think it'll be like really just 2 main conferences. And when the ACC eventually falls apart, which it will happen, like we know it's going to happen, and that ironclad grant of rights no longer exists, what's to stop the Big Ten from saying, you know what, we look at what we have right now, UNC is a better investment for us than Rutgers. Virginia is a better investment for us than Rutgers. If we really want the New York market, why don't we go after Syracuse? It'll take a lot of dominoes to fall for Rutgers and the Big Ten to divorce, but I think that things are only going to get more difficult for Rutgers because financially they're just not ever going to be able to compete with what the rest of the Big Ten has. And to be honest, what the rest of the Power Four has. They are so far behind everyone else, and they're in such a bad spot that you're like, what is even the point of this? So that's what's going on with Rutgers. Who thought we could put together a maybe 10-minute video? I don't know. I have to edit these. We'll see how long it ends up. Of Rutgers talk. The off-season does weird things to my brain. But if you want more college football content, more Big Ten content, more college football explainers, please, please, please subscribe to this channel. I work very, very, very hard on it. And if you know me personally, you know I'm not a hard worker, so that's a very big deal. Very big deal. And if there's any more topics you want to talk about, leave them in the comments. Please subscribe. Please share. Please comment nice things. And if you comment mean things, call in the cops. Yup, I will.